going to share this. So welcome to this Berks Alliance Spotlight. We're going to be talking about the OJOS photography project. Hopefully I said that right. Run by Barrio, Alegria. And we have with us to do the presentation about it, Daniel, I can never get your name right, Equiza, close, but not right, and Anthony Orozco. So I'm going to turn the program over to them, we're going to ask people to keep their cameras on if possible and mute their microphones. And we want to remind people we will share the video from this program with them once we get done. We'll post it on the Berks Alliance website, and we will share it with our colleagues at BCTV. And we ask that you use the chat function at the bottom of the screen to submit any questions or comments. So with that, Daniel, turn it over to you.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Dave. Hello, my name is Daniel Equiza. I am the Executive Director of Barrio Alegria, and with me is Anthony Orozco.
I'm the Director of Communications and Operations here at Barrio Alegria.
And let's start by letting you know that Barrio Alegria stands for Neighborhood of Happiness. This organization started as a dance group that would get together and do choreographies, work on choreographies, and then perform those choreographies in community events. And then through time, we added more art forms to now having three main pillars that we're going to be talking about today. And then inside of one of those pillars, which is creative placekeeping, we're going to focus on the OJOS project. So in this bright yellow, very warm slideshow, we have the Barrio definition and our main focus, which is the community engagement organization that utilizes the arts in order to create transformational moments in individuals so that they will transform their community. As I mentioned, there are three main pillars inside of Barrio, which are the creative placekeeping, which focuses on enhancing spaces and keeping spaces. The community development pillar, which is looking at the emotional connection that folks in our community have to money, and creating accessibility to funding. And also the leadership development pillar, which is providing leadership skills and opportunities for people in our community. Inside of those two, we would like to, inside of those three pillars, we would like to highlight the OJOS program, which is a photography program that is promoting community building that we're going to be focusing on today, but also the micro business and credit development program, which is connecting micro businesses to resources and funding, and also focusing on wealth building. For the creative placekeeping pillar, I would like to I would like to ask Anthony Orozco to talk a little bit about what this pillar does, and we will talk a little bit next about how we adapted to COVID.
So creative placekeeping, or you might have heard creative placemaking, is about utilizing public spaces to bring in beauty, light, excellence, and elegance to our community, to highlight the beauty, light, excellence, and elegance that is already there, and to foster that. Now, so when we're doing creative placemaking, we're going out to places and claiming those spaces, you know, firmly staking our flag into the ground and bringing art, workshops, and interactive arts to the community. For placekeeping, we are returning to those places. We're not leaving them behind, forgetting about them. There are areas in our city that are underloved and underutilized. And if our mission is transformation, then we have to be dedicated to those places. It's not a one-off thing where we go, show up, do our art thing, and leave, and never to be seen again. We return we continue with a connection to the neighbors, to the community, to the people who benefit from those arts. So you can find us in parks, in corners, in alleyways, especially in the south side of the city, returning to those places, bringing different arts, different opportunities to the people who inhabit and pass through those places.
How was this affected by COVID?
Well, during COVID, we weren't allowed outside, right? I don't know if you guys remember that time when we were all washing our groceries and going to the store in hazmat suits. With it was a difficult time, and especially for an organization that really hung its hat on utilizing public spaces. So, like many other organizations, we jumped onto online portals, ways that we could connect without having to be in the same room. You want to share a little bit more about what that looked like, Andy?
Yeah, and also once PA and Reading went green, we began doing more and more events out in the community. But I think that something that was really important for us was that we weren't necessarily attached to a space. We have in the past partnered up with the Reading Public Library. In fact, the Reading Public Library was one of our incubators, and it goes without saying that if the library had not been there for us, we wouldn't be what we are now without their help. So during COVID, when we weren't necessarily allowed to be in a particular space, we utilized the library as a showcase space for our photography show. And what you can see here are projected images of community members, their photography on the side of the library. So this was one way in which we utilized the space, the built environment to showcase our art. And now, so that is our main pillar, the pillar that started it all. I think we began with dance, then we moved on to theater, then we moved on to photography, and then we added more and more art components. But there was always this play with this dance with community members, where they would come and tell us their needs. And we ran a survey first that focused on the south side of Reading, as Anthony mentioned. And we found that trash, for example, was one of their main concerns. So then we began looking at how we could impact or how we could utilize art to work on these issues that, well, trash as one of the issues that community members were talking about. That began this second arm, second pillar for Barrio, which we have labeled community development because of the many components that are inside. This has matured into accessibility to funds for community members, credit building, and quantifying volunteerism through Time Bank that we now are operating. And this focuses on micro-lending, or specifically does a micro-lending program, a credit repair, credit building program, and then the operation of the Time Bank, which allows for different people to be quantifying how many hours they're volunteering or how many hours they're dedicating to something that they're not getting monetarily paid for, and then using it to get other services like violin classes, French classes, coding classes, workshops. So
Going to the zoo.
Going to the zoo, and events that are done by Barrio, led by Barrio, like going to the zoo. They have roller skating, ice skating, things like that. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about was financial literacy, because it has been very important for us as we have been running some financial literacy classes, which are now frowned upon. People don't like to call them that. People like to say, "Oh no, call it wealth building." Call it, and there seemed to be this quest for renaming or rebranding what was, but not really touching the inside of the component of the curriculum. And so that's something that we really wanted to play with and use art to explore that. Typically, when you go to a financial literacy workshop, there's a person there that is talking to you, and it's a very much a one-sided presentation. And after running that for a couple of years, we realized that the number of people that signed up in the beginning was not the same number that were in the end. So there was no continuum to the workshops. And then people who were signing up for the workshops would just get lost afterwards. That there was no real meaningful way of engaging these folks. So we wanted to explore that through this program called Adulting Sucks. That is a financial literacy, and we can say it because the name is very boring. The program is not. Financial literacy that is not boring, because it looks at the emotional attachment and the emotional traumas that we have with money. And it's not necessarily just an expert talking at or to people, but it's just a group of people, young people coming together and being guided through those emotional baggage or emotional memories that we have about money. For example, one of those people was telling us that their first memory of money was their father giving them a $50 bill and the wallet and saying to them, "Hey, look, this bill is very important. It's a very special bill. If you take this bill to the store, you can get anything you want." And so this person, who I think is now 20 years old, remembers putting this bill in the wallet and folding it, and then coming home from school every day and opening that wallet and seeing the bill and being so happy that this, one day they would go to the store and buy anything they wanted. So one day they came home from school and opened the wallet and did not find this bill. So they were distraught. They were really, really sad, filled with anxiety. So they went to talk to their mom, and their mom said, "Well, let me talk to you about paying bills. We had to use your bill, your special bills, so that we could have water." And at that point, for a 7-year-old to learn about bills and to learn about what, the meaning of money was very important, but also marked them with this sense of anxiety, of not really trusting money, not really trusting all of these emotions that came with the story. And so as a group, we were able to workshop that and find an artistic way of helping heal this emotion. And then we created a money dance. So this person was able to choreograph with the help of others in Barrio a way of a healthy way of feeling about money, and not necessarily, you know, having all of these feelings of anxiety and terror and, you know, like apprehension about money. So that was something that was really great, and it was well received by this group of people that are here. Some noteworthy things to say about this program is that people have learned to trust the program. The same amount of people that signed up, which were 15, are staying still till today. And we are very good at tracking the success. For example, every time that a participant comes to this program, they receive money for their attendance. So they are paid for their participation, and we run surveys all the time to see what they are using their money on. The majority of the people that have been through this program are using their money to repay debt that they had. So this is marvelous. This is something that we didn't have before, that we are now receiving in real time, and it's something that we wanted to really focus on.
I also think it's important to note that just like with OJOS, and you'll see a common thread go through our pillars, we're using art as the vehicle to address this financial literacy, to look at and investigate our emotional connections to money. Because unlike, you know, a financial professional coming in and opening up a spreadsheet or going into the nitty-gritty about your budgeting and your bills, we are communicating to people's, to how their emotions are connected to money. And art is a universal language that people can use to communicate through that. Cool. And so I think that's a strength that we bring to this financial literacy course, is that we are able to use arts in ways that I don't think other, like a financial institution would ever think of, or be able to address this root cause. You know, we talk to people and they say, oh, you know, it'd be great if you guys did like voter outreach, you know, like community engagement or financial literacy. And basically what they're asking for is for you to open up the oven and pull out a cake, you know, but that isn't the first process. There's a lot that goes into it. You have to get the flour, you got to get your eggs. There's other things that you have to do at the ground level. So addressing people's connection to money, you know, a lot of folks are fortunate enough to have grown up and not know when payday was for their parents. There are many of us who grew up knowing exactly when payday was and when the deposit hit. So we have to investigate things before jumping into, say, like the 100 level course. Sometimes you need that introductory course to get people ramped up into that. And I think that's where Adulting Sucks really finds its niche.
That's cool.
Yeah. And thank you, Anthony, for that. And as you can see in this photograph, we have a plethora of folks that are very diverse. But I think the main age group that are part of this group are somewhere between 15-year-olds to 25, 26-year-olds. So that's the majority of our group, and the majority, the age of the people that are involved in this financial literacy that is definitely not boring. I just wanted to point out, we do not use, we work very hard to not use art as a gimmick inside of the main curriculum. We go into the discussion and into the program thinking, okay, these are the goals that we want to hit. But I mean, internally, when the conversations begin happening, there are issues that might show up that we never thought would come up. And so we have to be very flexible to explore those, because I mean, dealing through trauma and dealing through some of these memories that that may have pain in their memories, it's somewhat difficult, and we can't just move on to the next subject. We have to explore that and try to heal that. So something for us to mention as well. Next is the leadership development pillar. And this pillar has been one of our most important programs. It started as the leadership development cohort, going and engaging young people from our community that did not self-select as a leader. This is very important because there are members of our community that are definitely leading things, leading initiatives. But if you ask them if they are a leader, they will say, no, I am not a leader. Do not think that I am a leader. They will always reject that for a number of reasons. So we work on those, what we call self-limiting beliefs. As I mentioned, this started as a cohort, but now includes all organizational levels, all the people from community members, volunteers, part-time, full-time staff, leadership, board members. It includes all levels, because we really see that this can be a tool for changing not only individuals, for changing our city as well. We also take trips to different cities to learn from what other organizations and cities are doing to improve their environment, to improve their society. We recently came back from Troy, New York, which is doing amazing work through the Sanctuary for Independent Media. But we have been to other places like Montgomery, Alabama, Chicago, Illinois, places in New York, Philadelphia, to study what they are doing. Last year we presented at the Smithsonian Museum for the American Latino. So that was one of our members, staff members, volunteers, Yuritzkiri Sixtos Medina, who is an immigrant from Mexico who, for a long time, was looking to lead a dance group, and then got connected with Barrio, opened up this wonderful dance group, which is called Grupo Guarani, and is now doing amazing things in the community. Anything you want to add to that, Anthony?
You know, I forget this from time to time, but I was actually part of the leadership development cohort. There was a period of time where I would meet on Saturday mornings at Barrio, and I would get guidance and support from other folks for projects like the Penn Street City of Palms anthology that I put together. And also I brought a Puerto Rican poet who wrote us a book about surviving Hurricane Maria in the weeks after, to come and perform during Hispanic Heritage Month at several locations. And so for me, it helped me overcome some self-limiting beliefs, which I suffer from daily. And like Daniel said, we're finding people who don't necessarily self-select. And I think that's important to note, because I think in all industries and even in government, we see people who say, I am a leader, but maybe don't necessarily even have the skills or the certifications or should be in a position of leadership, while also seeing other people who do have the qualifications, skills, and heart to be a leader, but maybe just don't think it's for them. And I think we can miss out on a lot of potential by not reaching out to the people who don't self-select as leaders.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. So now we are we are arriving to the actual what we came here for.
We say not to say this.
Yes,
This has been great.
all of that to land here. But I think that it was very important for us to give a background of what Barrio is and all of the things that we are working on, because a project like OJOS goes through all three pillars. It's an arts program, but it also is a community building program and definitely a leadership development program. So it touches on a lot of the different parts of the pillar. What it is a photography project where we engage community members to come and receive a 1 hour photography workshop. It doesn't matter if they have a camera or not, because we will provide them with a camera. We have 10 DSLRs that we share with community members. So after they have come and taken a workshop, they go out into the community with the photographer. They spend some time, I think, shooting outside. And then they take the cameras for a week or two, and then they begin documenting their lives. At the end of which they come back and share those photos with a photographer, and they pick their top 3. After they select their 3 photos, then we put all of those pictures together, and we have a show, a photography show. Anything else about what it is that you want to share?
Yeah, so we invite members of the community to come take a workshop. That workshop is led by a professional photographer, a trained photographer, and usually somebody who lives in or around Reading, most of the time in Reading. So we've had professionals like Susan Engstad, who's a wonderful photographer. She was with the Reading Eagle for a long time. We just had Juliana Delgado, who works at Retro Photo across the street and is an artist. Mateo Toro, who is an entrepreneur and a videographer, to come and train them about how to take their photography to the next level, how to approach concepts, composition, and presentation. And then, like Daniel said, goes out and actually does street photography with them, and in real time can tell them, oh yeah, okay, I see what photo you're getting. You're getting a photo of that mom and daughter trying to cross the street. You're doing a straight on shot. What if it's more interesting if you go from the side and you get them and you tell a story? So again, storytelling, doing more than just, basic documentation, but showing the beauty and the stories of our community, showing context, giving more texture, color, and information to the viewer.
And we have been running this program, I think, for 6 years, 6 or 7 years. And throughout all this time, we have learned 3 lessons that we would like to leave you with. So the OJOS lesson number 1 is that building support for these programs takes time. We have been witness to some initiatives that start with a lot of support and then they fizzle out. Barrio, for better or for worse, took the opposite way. We began OJOS with 1 participant, and then the next cohort, the next year, it grew up to 3, and then so on and so forth. Currently, our cohort usually has somewhere between 8 to 10 participants that participate in the workshop. We do limit the amount of participants to this program because of the access to camera and also the size of the workshop. We take the aim for beginner photographers, but we have seen some experienced photographers that come and go to take pictures with the rest of the community members because they just really enjoy that. By the way, the photos that we are showing in this part of the presentation are from the OJOS workshop, so they belong to participants. The second lesson is that community members respond well when trust is placed on them. I often tell people that we began this program with 3 DSLR cameras. We didn't own any of them. I borrowed them from friends because I thought that it would be a good experience to share the cameras with people who had only taken pictures on their phones. Obviously now you can take really, really great photos on your phone. So the workshops have also changed to include how to use storytelling, as Anthony was mentioning, because it's really about, it's not about the technical part of the camera, but it's really about telling your story, that you matter and that you are here, documenting your presence, your existence. However, we have 10 cameras that are constantly lent out to the cohorts and to community members at large. Anything else you want to add on to this?
Yeah, we have gotten all of our cameras back except one currently. This guy, his name, well, I guess I should share his name, but no. He actually had he's going through a health journey right now and needed to go to San Antonio, Texas for a procedure. He's landing in Philly today, and he's messaging me right now saying like, hey, well, when do you need this camera back? And I'm like, I think you just had like a bypass, like just call, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay. So I am always heartened by the participation of the people in our community because we give them this equipment. We sign out their name, we have their contact information, but I mean, after that, they walk out our doors with a DSLR, and we have had great success in seeing all of those cameras come back. And also not just those cameras, but beautiful photographs. So.
Yeah. And finally, our third lesson is that some people do not see themselves as artists until given the chance. And because this lesson comes with a story of Juan, I'm going to let our storyteller tell the story.
Yeah. So I was standing outside waiting for, just like calling people in to our space for the workshop that we had this year. And when I was like waiting for people to show up, I saw a father of one of our dancers in our Grupo Guarani Mexican folkloric dance troupe. He came in just for his kid to practice dance. But I stopped him and I said, hey, there's a workshop. There's a photography workshop going on upstairs. And he goes, oh, really? He's like, can I be a part of that? I'm like, yes, that's why I'm telling you, please go upstairs and take some photos. That way you don't have to just, sit on your phone while your kid's dancing. You can go do something. He's like, oh, okay. And he went up there, and then our instructor is teaching them about perspective and exposing them to all this new things that have to do with composition. Excuse me. And as he is sitting in class, I'm leaning over to him like, hey, you're gonna take a camera, right? You're gonna take one, you're gonna take some photos, you're gonna be in our gallery. And he goes, so I'm Mexican American myself. I know the Mexican community very well. We like to stay under the radar. We go to work, we go home, maybe go out to eat, go work, go home, go work, go home, and that's it. And he was not self-selecting, although he did say, I'm thinking thinking about maybe buying a camera. And I saw that as a sliver, as a crack in the door. And I'm like, you know what? How about you take this home and test it out? That way, you know, if you want to even have this type of camera. And he's like, I don't know. And then we go out to shoot as a group with the instructor. I put the camera in his lap and say, come on, let's go. Sure enough, he comes and joins us. I see a smile stretch across his face as he's snapping, taking angles, hitting different vertical, horizontal photographs of it. And by the end of the night, I'm proud to say he took that camera home and he shot some photos. And we're going to be, highlighting his work in an exhibition. And this, Juan, who believed, no, this is not for me. After encouragement and support, sure enough, became a photographer and will be celebrated as one. Okay. And I think it's important to note, again, like with the leadership part, that many people will not self-select as that. And sometimes they just need a hand up or, somebody behind them to remind them that, no, this is your place too. You are not excluded from this. To believe and see, you know what? I guess I am a photographer. And every time I see him, it's, we have a little bit of a warm embrace. I call him the photographer every time I see him, and ask him if he's still taking pictures and shooting. So I think that is exemplary of what we try to do.
And so there are two things that we forgot to mention in this presentation. One are the 3 Barrio values. And they are, at Barrio, we share what we have. At Barrio, what happens to one of us happens to all of us. And at Barrio, we keep our promises. So those are the guiding values that are behind all of the programs, all of the things that we do. And we have 3 levels of impact. And the story of that Anthony just shared hit all of those levels of impact. On the outward level is our community level. So on the community level, the community gains something from the art program, the art project. In this case, the community will gain photos that are being shared, and also a reception, a photography reception, where people will be coming in and seeing these photos. Underneath that level, there's the interpersonal level, which was exemplified by this interaction between Anthony and the community member. So there was this person who did not self-select as a photographer, and then there was this other person who opened the doors, as Anthony put it, and invited him into this different reality, into this different space where this person was actually a photographer. And so we call this the interpersonal level of impact. So there was that interaction that happened, but we see it all over. I mean, we see it with experienced dancers working with inexperienced dancers. We see it with people who have knowledge about something, working with people who have knowledge on something completely different. So there is this exchange of experiences that happen. And then the most, I want to call it sacred of all levels of impact, is the individual level of impact, which is exemplified by Anthony's own change in internal change, and also Juan's internal change. So the change in Juan that we saw was that immediately from the beginning, he came with this idea of himself of not being a photographer, and then he left this interaction with Barrio feeling like he could be a photographer, or that he had gained those skills, or that new level of confidence. In Anthony is a little bit more difficult to track, because we know Anthony as this person who's always loving and wanting participation from people and wanting to open up doors. But I think that internally we see little by little this new gain confidence that Anthony himself can become a better leader. So let me ask you this question. Anthony, do you consider yourself a leader?
Yes.
Okay. So it is great to see that. And so the second question would be, did this interaction with Juan, this story with Juan, change you in any way? And if so, how?
It made me joyful.
So and that is the individual level impact that we see and that we can track. It is very difficult to track through simply number of people that felt joyful today. We track it through stories. We have most significant change stories system that we use to be able to track that. So I wanted to give you a brief overview of all of that just before we finish, and then we are just landing to this questions page. I wanted to make sure that you guys had our email addresses there for any further questions that you might want to have, but we also want to open it up to anybody in the Zoom meeting to ask.
Well, thank you both. This has been really inspirational and engaging. It's great stuff. I have been wondering how this particular project fit into some of the other things that you did, but I think you've done a great job of explaining how it's all part of a bigger context. Yeah, and just so many really, really good points here. Let me start with a couple basic questions. Your primary focus in the city of Reading is in the area south of Penn, if I remember correctly. Is there a reason why that's the target area? And is it possible to translate what you're doing to other places in the community? What would it take to do that?
So those are really good questions. When we first started, we wanted to create change in Reading. But after one of our visits to an organization called Taller Puertorriqueño in Philadelphia, through one of these baile trips, we learned that they focused on the neighborhood around where their main center was. And they said that for the purpose of tracking success, they recommended an organization small like Barrio to just focus on an area and then begin growing from there, but also growing through tracking that success, whatever the success was. So that is why we got really, really lucky, because at that time, the Wyomissing Foundation was working on a South of Penn task force. So we were invited to join that, and we were able to grow and really focus our attention on that area and get some of those resources to be able to track that. Can it be, and what would it take to take the model of Barrio in the south of Penn to other areas or other cities? I think it would take time, definitely time, because we really look for meaningful interactions, meaningful relationships to grow, and those take time. I mean, in the beginning, when we when we first started, I think for the first 1 or 2 years that we were doing work in the south of Bend, people really said to us, "Oh yeah, what you're doing is nice, but just give it a couple of years, and then you'll disappear like the rest." And that was something that we really took to heart, and we said, "No, we are here. We are your neighbors. We are here to stay." So that was in my mind what I would say to that.
Yeah, I think hypothetically, you could hire a team of artists and coordinators to deliver X amount of events and workshops in, say, Northeast Reading, and check a box, and then that'd be it. I think that could happen, but there is so much more that goes into it where, as Daniel said, we are showing them that we are your neighbors, that we're not just popping in here to check a box. We are connecting with them. Sometimes they get fed into other programs. We look many times, like the Adulting Sucks. All of those artists, all of those participants are artists that are involved in other things at Barrio, who we met through different ways, and to learn that they have a need. That happens the same way with our microloans and with our instructors. We look for people in our community who can share the knowledge that they have gained. And many times it's through our interpersonal relationships. So I suppose that you could secure funding and get a team to go and check the box and deliver the programs and leave, but that would not sustain. What you need is people who will go, be a part of the community, understand the needs of the community, be able to communicate with the community. And I don't mean just in English or Spanish. There are many ways, many different types of, I'll just call them languages, that we can communicate through people, because we understand their lived experience.
No, I think that's very insightful and very helpful, Anthony. It seems to me that what you've done is you sort of built up rather than grow out, and that's important. And the platform that you guys talked about what's driving you, seems to be the heart of what you do with all the different things. I was wondering how the financial literacy was going to fit in with art and dance. And you did an excellent job of explaining that. That sense of empowering and engaging people that the arts provides is what you're also doing with the financial literacy.
Yeah, and also, I'm so thankful to Barrio, because for the past 10 years, I've been a journalist, and being a journalist is very black and white, facts, fiction. And also a little pessimistic, right? It's also a little cynical. There's a saying in journalism where if your mother tells you she loves you, check it out. And so it's kind of cynical, right? But with Barrio, the other thing is with the arts, not only that universal language, but also the action of dreaming into the future. Instead of thinking of what's the problem? How bad is the problem? How many people are affected by it? How come nobody's fixing the problem? Instead, we're thinking about the solutions. How good can it be? What does the future look like once we overcome this? What are some possible ways that we can circumnavigate barriers to the solution? So it's a thriving mentality that really pushes dreaming into the future. And I think that is a positive that it brings as well, whether it be financial literacy, the arts, or dreaming into your future as a leader.
No, I think that's great. The example that you talked about the financial literacy and how you had somebody connected it to an art, to performance art, but it also converted it from being a negative, something they were worried about, into something they could feel good about being able to express using an art form. So that's really a powerful tool, and it crosses a lot of language barriers that we have otherwise that might obstruct things.
Yeah, Barrio has been, I think, the key to the key to the success has been we are very we don't like to just sit and follow the trends. We often sit here and say, all right, what is everybody doing? Okay, we're not gonna do that. We have an allergy to boredom. So things that are boring, you know, like all of a sudden, like we begin breaking out.
Yeah.
That's your artist coming out.
And I think that, and also we are surrounded by our community is made out of people who are very courageous, very genuine, but also somewhat crazy, because I mean, we've had people who have supported us who you know, if I put myself in their shoes, I would have been like, I don't know how there. I mean, Wells Fargo did not start tap dancing. You know, they didn't start as a tap dancing group. So somebody that comes and says, hey, like, I trust that your connection to the community is strong, so I think that you should do X, Y, Z. It's just mind-boggling. So shout out to all of those that are in our community, because you're great, you're amazing, you're courageous, but also somewhat you're our type of crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we have at least one of those organizations here. Pat, do you want to say anything?
Oh my goodness.
After they've called you crazy?
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't know that there's a whole lot to add. I think obviously Daniel and Anthony have explained the Barrio story really well, and why we have always been so supportive, because they have taken the alternative approach. They are not about delivering programs or going into their work with the mindset from the get-go that they are going to change community. Community changes as a result of them engaging and building trust with people in the community, and focus on the whole person, what folks who are involved with Barrio need or want in a whole variety of ways, and build those individuals up, developing their confidence, their interest in something beyond themselves and then organizing them together to make change in the community. So it's really a totally different approach than, I mean, it's more the bottoms up, the individual to the collective, which is really what's most needed to build a stronger community.
Yeah, an inclusive community.
Longer term. Yeah. And their different perspective and mindset is what is so valuable when we talk about the importance of diversity in our organizations and in our community, and recognizing and valuing all the diversity that exists. This is a classic example of why that's necessary. We need some of us who have been around forever need to be challenged about the way we've always done things. And that's part of the beauty of being able to work with Barrio. That's always happening.
Thank you. Yeah, it strikes me that there's a common thread through a lot of what you've talked about, the leadership development program and the stories you've raised there, financial literacy program, the story of Juan and being involved in the photography program, all of which are sort of empowering people that you have some authority, you have some control over your life, and you can be an agent of doing things. And it had an impact on them. Do you find that the people who've gone through or participated in your programs are more engaged in the community over time?
Please take.
I mean, me. As I said, like I was a fan of Barrio when I was working at the Reading Eagle. I would like show up to some of their events, and I was just like enamored. And then I started, showing up to the events because I wasn't working and I could actually enjoy it. And then Daniel was like, hey, I noticed that some people like your poetry. Would you want to do like, I don't know, a poetry workshop? And I'm like, no, no, me? No. And he's like, come on, just do it once and just see how it works out. I'm like, all right, we'll do it. And I really thought it was going to be me, him, and our Lenny sitting around the table having coffee in our notebooks, but it filled up. It filled up, and it wasn't because of me. Maybe there was a connection because people knew me and they had seen me at poetry things, but what it was is that people needed a community. They needed a community of poets that they could come and work on their poems, not present, not do an open mic, but just wrestle with the poetry a little bit. Mm-hmm. I love that sort of stuff, and I know that other poets do too. We just needed a place to meet. I thought this was going to be a one-time thing. It turned out to be once every month for a year. And we covered different topics. We had different presenters, and the energy, the momentum never stopped. I stopped it. I killed it. I was like, we're going to do it for 1 year and end it. And then I need to give it to somebody else. You know, I need to let the community decide where it goes from here. After that, you know, I built a lot of connections and I learned a lot in those workshops because I was not a teacher. I was a participant. I was a student among students who were teaching each other. And I guess in 2020, I became the poet laureate. In 2021, I became the poet laureate of Berks County. I turned in some stuff that I actually wrote in those workshops that seemed to connect with other poets in a blind contest. I did the Penn Street City of Poems anthology, where people wrote poems that were inspired by Reading, that were connected to Reading, either in place or in spirit. And that was like 100 poems from 75 different poets all over Berks County. You know, I think I can just point to myself. There's other people that I can point to, but I can speak most honestly from myself that Barrio has made me believe I'm a leader and that I'm capable and that I can also spark this wick within other folks, that I can infect people with this disease of self-belief and hope and dreaming. So yeah, I think that probably is a good example that I can pull out of my pocket.
Oh, that's great. No, that's great. So a couple quick final questions. In terms of the photography project, you're going to be launching that again in June, and you said, Anthony, you're looking at finding a way to engage people who don't have time during the workday to come. How can they learn more about it?
Yeah, this will be a more of a closed group. We have some people who have already mentioned their interest into participating in OJOS. We usually do it on a Thursday from 5 to 7. And what we found is that there is a lot of energy around this, a lot of excitement, but these folks either go to school, second shift jobs, and cannot attend that. So we sent out some polls, and the timing is sort of all over the place for them as well. So we're imagining a third cohort where we can get these people together. It's still in the works because this is unlike the other cohorts that we've done, where we can serve people who have work or school or family commitments in the afternoons and just cannot make those. So we're going to serve a very specific population in this third OJOS cohort.
Oh, that's great. Where can we see the photographs?
We will be having an exhibition. We will be also sharing them on our social media. So find us on Facebook and Instagram. You can find us, type in Barrio Alegria, and you'll find our bright blue and orange and yellow logos, and you'll see that. And then we'll be announcing the venue for that in coming months. We'll be having the exhibition in fall. One of those locations will be the library. So again, transforming spaces. I don't know how many people on this call or who will be watching this video travel through Reading on a daily basis. I do. One of the main corridors is Franklin Street. I always seem to get stopped at Franklin and Fifth. And why not have some beauty, light, excellence, and elegance wash over you with the photography of local photographers right there at the library. So
no, that's a great idea, and that, you know, create a sense of place and belonging.
Although, can I make a suggestion? I know those special events where you display the photos are great for all the reasons you just talked about, but I also would think it would be a great idea if now you've been doing this over how many years? 3 years? If there could be an exhibit that stays up for a period of time in a location, so more people can see the breadth of the photographs that have been produced over this time period.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Pat. We've also talked about in our dreaming sessions of actually publishing a book, a photography book with some of these beautiful pictures.
Yeah, and one thing that we're looking at is venues in South Reading, but also we, you know, baked into what we do is to eliminate the barriers of even a front door sometimes. But yeah, that would be great if we could show that for a long period of time. Maybe there's a wall that needs some love that we could just keep up for like a whole season.
Good. Well, I was going to ask what's next after dance and poetry and photography and leadership and financial literacy. But it sounds like the book could be part of it. And I'm going to call on probably the heart and soul of Barrio to talk. Lenny, do you want to talk for a quick second?
The heart and soul, yes. What's next for Barrio, Lenny?
Honestly, I never know. It's always a surprise where we end up. But I would imagine it's going to be very different than everything we've done so far. I want to go back to what Pat was saying about having some kind of standing exhibition, and then Daniel mentioned the book. We are planning, it's actually been next year, I think we make 10 years of OJOS, which is amazing. I was there at the very first one. And it's, yeah, where it was just one person. And so it's been great to see how that has evolved. Just like Barrio has evolved to include so many more people, so many more aspects of the project. And so I would think that Barrio is definitely going to be evolving again. I don't know what's coming up, but it's going to be exciting.
There's a future. Well, thank you guys. This is a terrific program. As I mentioned, we will be sharing it on the Berks Alliance website and send it to everybody registered. And you guys should feel free to distribute it to whoever you want to distribute it to as well. And we will share it with the friends at BCTV. Thank you. Very, very interesting and engaging topic and very uplifting. So thank you for all that great work.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll be doing a couple spotlights in June. Hopefully people will be joining us for those as well. But thank you, Anthony, and the mailman has come, so it's time to go.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.